Alright, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. Pause the video to complete steps one by one. Don't watch the whole video and try and remember it. It's too much. I've tried to simplify this down and make things as easy for you as possible, but there's still some legwork that you're going to have to do. The goal here is to get from SketchUp to YouTube, and there are a couple steps along the way. We're going to be exporting a JPEG with a plugin called Twilight Render for SketchUp, and we're going to come back to this in a minute. This resolution spherical camera. We're going to turn that JPEG into an MP4 with a little bit of code. We're going to inject the MP4 with a tag telling YouTube that it's a 360-degree video, and then the final step is to actually upload it to YouTube with a special account we've created. I think this process will take you about 10 minutes, maybe a little bit more. Here we go. In SketchUp, load up your file. I've created a demo file for this purpose, and you're going to want to get down back to the position camera, which for most of you is the origin unless you had something special going on. And you can see here I've got just a couple objects, and then over here some text and a Jeep. Now, time to export it. Under extensions, you'll find one called Twilight Render I've installed on your computer. And you're going to choose the first option, which brings you up with a pop-up window here. There are 3 settings to change here. The first one would be Render Preset, and I think we should put this up to High Plus. The second thing is going to be the resolution, and this is important to get right. So let me refer back to here. 3840 by 2160. 3840 by 2160. Does that seem random to you? It's not. It's the resolution of ultra high def or 4K, and it is what is recommended for by YouTube for 4K videos you upload. And the final thing, the camera button here, change it from SketchUp view to spherical. If all 3 of those settings are intact, go ahead and hit the play button and watch your model render. On the bottom screen over here, it'll show it's processing, and you'll see it start to build your model, and you can kind of see it as it layers on resolution. This will take a few minutes for some of your models, and so I'm going to come back to you in a minute when mine's finished. Okay, mine has finished, and I know that because it says render stopped, and it also tells you how long it took. Mine only took 40 seconds. Yours probably took longer, considerably longer than that. Now, the next step, now that it's rendered, is we need to save it. So we're going to hit a file, save as, and right into your My Documents is good. And this is a little bit silly, but I want you to call it in.jpg. Save it. Close it. Close SketchUp. We're done with SketchUp. The next step is we're going to turn that JPEG into an MP4. There's a reason we called it in. You'll see in a minute. It's important. Otherwise, this doesn't work. In Files for you, there is a folder I created for you called Drag to Desktop. Drag it to your desktop. You need your own copy of this. Okay, I can close Files for you. I'm done there. Drag to Desktop has 3 things in it, and you need to add a 4th. What you need to add here is your file called in. So you got to go find it. I saved mine to My Documents, and wow, a lot of stuff. I'm just going to type it in.jpg. There it is. Okay, lots of ways I could get this in here. One of them would be to drag and drop. Now, the next step here is pretty easy. I've done the legwork for you. I'm proud to show you my code that I wrote to do it. But all you need to do is double-click Run This. It tells you this is going to turn in.jpg into out.mp4, an input and an output. Be prepared, it may take a few minutes to run, and Mr. Corson rules. How'd that get there? All right, here we go. This is processing. This will also take a few minutes to run. You'll know it's done when it closes out. Okay, it has closed out, and I'm now ready for my next step. So now there's an extra file here. There's in.jpg and there's out.mp4. And out is essentially, if you look at your input JPEG, the out file is a movie of that JPEG. Now the next step, going down our checklist here, we've turned our JPEG into an MP4. It's time to tell that MP4 that it's a 360-degree video. And so there's a tool I downloaded from YouTube called the 360 tool. You're going to double click that. This is a little tricky, but here are your settings. You're going to, nothing is clickable yet. You have to open up and tell it you're opening up out.mp4. And then you've got to tell it it's spherical. Save as. Now it wants to call it out injected because this has been injected with your this is your injected file. But at this point, I'd like you to rename the file to the name of your project. So what was your project about in a word or 2 words? And so let's say mine, this was my test. I'm going to call it test. And I can now quit that. So now I've got 2 video files. I've got the original one and yet another video file. This one is ready for YouTube. So to get to YouTube, we're now on our final step here, upload it to YouTube. And this is where it really matters that you get it right, like everything else. I want you to open up on your computer an incognito window. You can do that from these lines over here. Reason being, you're going to log on to an account that is not yours, and it's a shared account, and this makes it just very easy so that when you're done with this session, that account will be logged out and done with. And if you visit YouTube, you'll notice that you're not signed in, even if you previously were, because and ignore all the gibberish on this page, please, because you're in incognito mode. And so I'm going to now sign in as VR360 at FRSD.us. Virtual Reality 360, our shared VR account, and the password will be different every day. So look up on the board for the password. And I'm in. Now what's next? Over to the upload button. For those of you that haven't uploaded a YouTube video, pretty easy to do. You can click on this and then find your video on your desktop and in the drag to desktop folder that you have. Or, and by the way, make sure there's 2. Get it right. It's the one that you renamed. It's not out. It's the injected one. Double click on that. As you can see here, I've set this account up to automatically tag our video with a few tags. Leave those there. But there are 2 things you need to now author. One of them is the name of your video, as the world will see it on YouTube, and one of them is a description for your video. 1 sentence should suffice. Make sure there's no spelling or grammar errors. 1 sentence should suffice. And up here, I'd like you to put the name of your video. So this is my test video. And description, this is a test. Write a solid sentence that describes what your project is. Final thing I'd like you to add in here, your encrypted tag, so that I can tell whose video is whose and nobody else will be able to will even understand what this is. Put in your trimester, put in your block, either A day or B day, and put in your initials. Nobody will understand what that is except for us, but that gives us a way to see who created which videos and who published them. And that's it. This looks ready to go. Let's make it live and see if it worked. Okay. When you're watching the YouTube videos, one last thing I'd like to point out, make sure, and this might, depending on your computer, sometimes you have to tell it in the settings to go all the way up to the highest resolution, and that makes a visible difference for your project. On some computers, it automatically goes up that high. Now, go check out your video from an iPhone, from an Android phone, with a Google Cardboard, on an iPad, or from your computer at home, because these are phenomenal, and I think it was worth the effort. Great job.